The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch UK Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to Paranormal Concept right here on Parasearch UK Radio with your host, Paul Rook.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Paranormal Concept Show. I'm your host, Paul Rook, and on tonight's show, we've got a really good discussion going tonight. I'm going to introduce my co-host, Kerry Greenaway. Hello, Kerry.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And how are you?
I'm awesome, as always.
You're
this
always
is going to be a good
awesome.
show. This is going to be a good show.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. And it's going to rely quite, not heavily, but it's going to rely on some comments in the chat room. So if we can get some really good, interesting comments in the chat room, that will be absolutely fantastic. The subject tonight is going to be, can we do anything right? Now, let me explain that a little bit more. Basically, is there anything that we can do as paranormal investigators that do not hinder or damage the outcome of a paranormal investigation? What do you think, Kerry?
I knew that was coming. Right, okay. I think there is things we can do. I think there is a hell of a lot we can do. Oh, I have to be so careful here.
So that's yeah, okay. So that's your thoughts sorted.
Yeah, I think there's a lot we can do. Yeah. End of, right. Okay, thanks very much. See you later, everybody. Bye. Good night.
Yeah, I just thought, like, just even being in the room, you're sort of interfering with the spirit energy.
I agree with you there. Even being in the room can influence from what we've seen from scientific-based experiments. It's one of those, isn't it? It's one of those very difficult ones. Being even in the room can influence a outcome, I believe. So if you remove yourself from that environment and you literally rely on tech, which is questionable in itself.
But then even just by having the tech in the room, you are also still effectively interfering with the natural order of that room.
Okay.
So therefore, you cannot do anything right.
Oh, I kind of know where you're going with this. However,
I am playing devil's advocate.
I know you're playing devil's advocate on this. Right, okay. So, if you look at it scientifically, science says that if you can repeat an experiment and get the same results, then that becomes scientifically verifiable. Yeah?
Yeah.
Therefore, if we can repeat an experiment in the field, then if we can repeat it time and time again without human interaction, then surely that backs up a from a scientific basis. Surely
but then
backs that up.
If you're still manipulating that room, then you're still manipulating it on the other two experiments. So you're going to get the same outcome.
No, you are. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. However, it depends on how you set your experiment up, in all honesty. Because Okay, so if we go from the scientific basis of the definition of their experimentation, which is take it out of the environment, put it into a laboratory, and then set it up exactly the same and repeat. That's my children slamming doors. And repeat
shut that door.
Shut that door. And repeat that experiment time and time again, and have the same result time and time again. Then that becomes a verifiable basis that you base your scientific proof on. Correct?
Right. Yes, no, I agree with that. But then there's not many teams out there that do repeat their investigation techniques.
No.
I mean, let's face it, most teams just go for the one night and then conclusively claim that the investigations, there's no ghost there. I've seen it so many times.
No, you're seeing it from an events company perspective. I think there are a lot of teams, not a lot, but there are select. There are select teams out there who are working in a different way in the field from a general perspective, i.e., what you see on social media and stuff like that. They are generic, and I don't mean this in a derogatory fashion at all. They are generic ghost hunting teams, but there are teams out there working in a very set way that are looking to repeat experimentation, and that is the difference. You've got to look at the field. This is where we come into the definitions, which we've done a show on before, in regards to how you conduct your paranormal investigation. There are teams that are just generic, event company teams. There are teams that work in a very specific scientific way. There are teams that work to particular structures. There are, the teams I find that work in a particular structural way, scientific way, are not out there. They're not out there on social media. You have to, know the right people and know the right contacts. They're very quiet. They're very, they keep themselves to themselves. But I also find there are levels. So you've got people that go out there and do a type of investigation with the public, but then we'll do a private kind of research thing in a completely different way, but will not necessarily put that out. So you have to know who to talk to, quite frankly. There are levels within the paranormal field, and I think, in my opinion, from what I see and from what I know and from the people I know, it's very dependent on what angle you're hitting it from as to what how you approach the investigation field, shall we say.
I'm just interested to know how some of the serious paranormal investigators go out and investigate their locations. I mean, like you said, do they keep going back to the same location?
If possible, yeah.
I'm sure there's some. I do know a few investigators that do that. So,
yeah.
But then, what do they? How do they conduct the investigation? Are they actually filling the room with equipment to interfere with or have an effect on the final outcome?
No, if you looking at it from a very scientific perspective, you know what your equipment is going to do, which is key, right? One of the key things we've always said, and we've said this time and time again on Parasearch, is know your equipment. Know what it's going to do. Know how it's going to affect other pieces of equipment, or know what your readings mean. Know your false positives. Know that side of things. Yeah?
Yep.
You have to do that. One of the key things, you have to know that. How many times have we seen a team go out and go, oh God, I got a hit on the key too?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we've spoken to people who have told us time and time again how, quite frankly, irrelevant a K2 is.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, okay, so looking at the chat room, because it's kicked off already.
Good. That's what we want.
We've got Karen Besant in there, who says your belief system will dictate what and how you investigate, which is very true. Excuse the ducks in the back garden. Oh my God! We've got
That's
Richard.
right, the thunderstorm will bring them in again.
I know we've got thunderstorms and ducks in my garden at this moment in time. Richard has said there are very, very few people actually doing serious research into the paranormal. Actually, Richard, I think you'll be surprised at how many people are actually doing serious research into the paranormal. They're just not public about it. They just keep themselves to themselves and don't get involved in the social media dramas that go on. You have very generic paranormal Facebook groups, which probably contribute nothing, to be fair, despite their claims.
Yep.
The only serious work that is being done is by organisations and academic institutes, which most lay people will not have a clue who they are, which is true. I will grant you that, because when I've had these people on a show, they have very low listener bases because they have no clue who these people are, and yet they're intrinsic to the field. Quite frankly, Karen again says the sexy Kev Kerr just has a notebook and pen, and you know, he says don't get her started regarding live feeds and think their equipment is going off because of ghosties. You'll be surprised.
I totally agree with that.
I agree. I totally agree. Now, one thing I will say is the academics and the people doing serious research into the paranormal very, very, very rarely will put anything out on social media. You need to dig deeper. If you're interested in the paranormal, then you need to be part of groups that do not buy into the socials, is all I can say.
Absolutely.
Read
and you need someone as well that does know exactly what they're doing, equipment-wise, definitely.
Oh, God. Yeah. Know your equipment. Number one point of call, know your equipment.
I've done a vlog on that.
Funny enough, I know you did. Funny enough, Paul, I'm aware of this.
Again, you know,
Paul Rook, Karen.
We've
Rook
done
who's talking.
Yeah, playing devil's advocate, I might just point that out. With the data logger that we used on the investigation previously when we all went out, do you remember that?
What we're talking about with Graham and Ashley?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, we put out the sensors and we plugged in the machine and just waited. Surely that machine has an effect on the surrounding area. Did we take that into account?
Yes.
Into consideration?
Because someone like Graham and someone like Ashley is not going to go into the field and not know the outputs of that equipment and not take that into consideration when they regard their findings.
Okay.
Because that's the whole point. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
You know, when I've spoken to Graham or Ashley in this respect, they know inside out, upside down, the outputs and inputs and what they're recording and you know, all the variables, shall I say. And to be fair, and I'm not going to lie, it's a bit beyond my capability because I'm not there recording it, but I learn. Do you know what I mean? I'm asking questions when I'm with those guys and, you know, and I'm saying, so what is this thing and what are we recording? And, you know, all those basic questions, which led to that anomaly. If you remember, last time we were out, we were recording, we gradiated, that's probably not the right word. The location we were in, what we did was we segmented out the locations. So going on the basis that we would be going back time and time again, we sort of blocked out certain areas. So we had one floor and we had a certain amount of squares, and the data logger was in one area, and then we would move it into another area, blah, blah, blah. And that is a pattern we would have built up over time, given the opportunity. And so when we went there the first time, it was in a specific grid area, yeah? Now, Graham is the tech expert. He knows what his equipment is doing. He knows the input-output. He knows the parameters of that. He knows what each graph thing meant. And we had an anomaly. We had one of them.
You had a what?
Can't speak. We had one of them. So, but that led up to, right, so all that did was create a question. It didn't mean we captured paranormal activity. It was abnormal to the normal patterns that were being created in that grid, in that particular grid formation. Yeah. So that all that did was open up more questions. So we then went away and we sort of looked at the data that was gathered throughout the evening, and then that led to a particular point in time where this anomaly happened. So we then started looking at other options as to what that could have caused that anomaly, even down to basics, right? Such as the lead and the magnesium content within the window, as in the train line that was local. We looked into the environment, not just the location. We went further out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember we got peaked in the EMF fields.
Yeah.
We attributed that to possibly the train lines.
We looked at that. We looked at the planes. We looked at trains, planes, and automobiles. You know, we looked at so many options regarding that particular anomaly, even down to the window manufacturer, because that could have an effect. Now, that is what we were doing. Not because we want to go, oh, there ain't no paranormal activity there, but because if we discount everything and we can go in front of a governing body like the SPR or the ASSAP or someone like that, we can go, we looked into that, we looked into this. We can have verifiable information regarding that. And that is intrinsic. I think that paranormal activity will actually come out of the patterns in regards to the environment rather than a K2 meter or an EVP or a piece of video footage. In my personal opinion, the patterns in data that has been logged multiple times within a location will have the answers more than those other things that I've already stated. Personal opinion.
That you've forgotten already.
No, I haven't forgotten already, but I just don't want to re-talk.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, no, I do totally agree with that, and I think that was one of the best investigations we ever done because of the so much detail that we covered in the investigation.
Even down to right, me and you sat in the hallway, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we had multiple cameras set up. Yeah, CCTV cameras set up this particular evening. And I was told I was not allowed to work in the way I normally work. So there was no crystals, no spiritualism, nothing was going on in that way. Right?
Yep.
And me and you, we sat in the hallway area and we was watching orbs on the camera. Weren't we?
Yeah.
And we were sitting there going, oh, look, there's another orb, there's another orb. But they're not orbs, they're dust. You know, they're moisture.
Yeah.
They're the normal things that you would expect. However,
I don't know. I think some of them could be like the horses and. When you had...
You're just being shitty now. Oh my god! No, we were sitting there and we were going. All it did was show us the airflow.
Yeah.
That's what that did. That actually was intrinsic in showing the airflow through the location. Yeah? And yes, they were showing up as orbs, You know, but
Or
it
the
was
breeze.
dust, or, you know, it was showing the breeze through the back door. It was showing the breeze through the cellar, up the stairs. You know, I mean, they're not spirit activity. I don't care what anybody says. I'm so convinced now, these days. I'm so much more educated. Once upon a time, I would have been, oh my God, there's so many spirits in this place. Nowadays, I'm like, oh, it's so much dust. Let's get the Dyson out. But it proved a point of airflow within the location. And that then leads to temperature changes within the location. And there is a huge amount of database and data collection that you can gather from that as the temperature varies throughout the evening. I mean, okay, let's look at a general evening at the moment. How hot is it at the moment, right?
Yeah, it's hotter than hell at the moment, I think.
Oh, God. It's like, really, somebody put the sprinklers on. Really?
Yeah.
I've had enough now, right?
We had a bit of rain earlier, but it just
we
evaporated
didn't.
before it hit the floor.
That really wasn't rain. I was still sat out in that. That was not rain. Can't class it as rain in my area anyway.
It was. Right. It just evaporated before it got to the floor.
We were like sitting there going, thank the freaking Lord it's raining. We're going to just sit out here and carry on drinking. No, if you think of okay, so last night, 2:30 I woke up last night, too hot. So I went and sat in the garden and it was still hot. By about 4 o'clock it had cooled down. So look at the temperature variation that's occurred between sort of 8 o'clock in the evening to 2:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the morning to sleepable temperatures till about 8 o'clock this morning to the sun coming up, just on this hot night, right?
Yeah.
So look at the temperature variations like that. If that's on a hot night, imagine the temperature variation on an autumn night. Where you've had the sun all day and then it cools down of an evening and then the earth is giving off heat, so it warms up again. We've all had that, whereas early evening, it's like, oh, it's a little bit chilly, put a cardi on, and then by like 10 o'clock, you're like taking your cardi off again. We've had those kind of evenings. Think of the temperature variation. We get a lot more of that in the UK than you would believe. And this is why it annoys the hell out of me when people go, I've done my baseline tests at 7 o'clock in the evening. Okay, did you do it at 8 o'clock? No. Did you do it at 9 o'clock? No. Did you do it
That's
at 10
when they had the
o'clock?
paranormal activity.
No. Did you do it at 11 o'clock? No. Did you do it at midnight? No. So you did it at 7 o'clock. You've not bothered to do any more baseline tests throughout the evening. No. Then how the hell do you know your variations? How the hell do you know what you're capturing? Just because your baseline tests were at 7 o'clock in the evening, how the hell can you debunk something that happened at midnight? A temperature.
You know what? I'm going to take that
EM.
soapbox off you in a minute.
Mate, I'm on that soapbox. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
So, have we got any questions in the chat room?
Well, no, but we've got people commenting. I'm just like on my
I
soapbox.
noticed like the chat room's going.
Okay.
I thought I did see a question from Gary in regards to why wasn't you allowed to do your spiritualism stuff?
Oh, because on the evening that we were doing this, we wanted to go into the location without completely bare. Basically, we wanted to do it purely from a tech basis. So we wanted to get those baseline tests driven. Yeah. So we wanted to go in. We wanted to find out the airflow. We wanted to find out the baseline test. We had a lot of environmental factors that we had to consider, so we needed to look at those. Then if you added in crystals and stuff like that, you can't then discount all the other factors that I might have brought in. So that's why I wasn't allowed to work in the way I say allowed. It was an agreement to work in the way that I usually work, because we wanted to get a pure baseline test done. All that night was a baseline test. So we were doing hourly baseline tests. We were doing a full-blown CCTV set up so we could find airflow, recordings. We wanted to look at the external environmental influences because of the environment that we were in, and that's why. Now, the location itself was a perfect location, except the company that runs the location decided that wasn't a go, and they decided that they wanted to close the location after a period of time, so it became a non-location, as it were, which was unfortunate. But we were starting a long-term investigation, and hopefully we were hoping it would have gone on, but it didn't. But that's a different story. But the first night we were in, we wanted that night of baseline tests hourly without external spiritual influence, as it were.
Yeah.
Yes. Does that...
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not so you wasn't influencing any outcome.
No, because the other side of it is to work out what I do in the field in regards to crystals and minerals and my way of working, which I know has an effect. The only way to reduce that effect is to take that out of the equation. So I had literally shut myself down that night completely. I wasn't working in the way I would normally work, and it was well out of my comfort zone, but I learned so much from that investigation.
Yeah, it was a good investigation, I must admit that.
And we had activity. It was just, trying to explain that after the event, which led me on to a more scientific perspective.
Changing the subject slightly, Richard Clements in the chat room says there's a team in Cornwall that are claiming the heat wave is causing more paranormal activity, with a lot more people getting in contact with them. Could this be because it's hot and humid at night and they're not sleeping too well?
Actually, this goes back to a discussion we had on the night, if you remember.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
I do remember that. Yeah. Yeah,
we had a discussion on the night, which is very basic. So, I hate to add this in because I'm really not that good at this field. Right. I said, right, so it is a known fact in science that when things heat up, the atoms and molecules move faster, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So surely that provides more energy in the atmosphere. Yeah, and
it builds up static.
Yeah, would create more energy for people. So when we go out investigating in the winter, bearing in mind this night was so cold, so cold, surely that slows everything down because there's not the heat in the environment, right? So I said this, and I was laughed at. Why was I laughed at, Paul?
I can't imagine why. I don't remember.
Can you remember the explanation that was given? I can't. It was very
No, I can't. It was quite a while ago. I do remember the conversation, but I can't remember details. But I do know. I mean, from my experience, I tend to get more paranormal investigations come in, sort of around September time to just after Christmas. It seems to be that period when people are at home more because of the cold weather.
Or is it, right, September? So you're leading up to October.
Yeah.
Which is a known, Halloween and all that shit.
Yeah, I know, but I just figures that during the summer months, people I'm assuming, normal people, not like me, like to go out and stuff in the summer, so they're not spending as much time in the home.
True.
But when the nights start drawing in and it gets colder, people are indoors more.
Right.
And I think that's why they experience that. It appears that they experience more activity at home in those months. I mean, it makes sense because obviously they're staying indoors more, but that's just sort of my experience, and I do. I mean, but then saying that, I've got a paranormal investigation coming a couple of weeks back, so it's.
I think okay, so yeah, all right. So more people are more out and about, or have people round, or and depending on what's on the TV. I mean, we've had the World Cup, so you tend to have more people round. Let's watch the World Cup. So you're not going to notice it, right?
Yeah.
However, people are also drinking more.
Yeah.
In this weather, in all honesty, you have people round, you have a drink. I'm not saying you're getting rammed, but it's that kind of scenario. More of a weekend. So we then start drawing into autumn. The social life starts to fade off, I suppose, depending on what's on TV. You become more aware. I don't know. I think SAD plays a part in this. You become more... All of a sudden, your social life tends to drop off after the summer frivolities, should we say. I know myself in this weather, we've been out more than we've ever been. Oh God, it's so hot. Let's go for a walk down the seafront, stop in a pub, come back, that sort of thing. Even with the kids, you're out and about more. So yeah, there's a point. But having said that, in the UK, this summer is exceptional. Last summer, this weren't happening. The summer before, if I remember rightly, it rained for the whole of the 6 weeks holiday, and my kids were going crazy, bouncing off the walls because I couldn't get them out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
6 weeks holidays, kids are in the home. How can you tell, in all due respect, how can you tell paranormal activity when you have kids bouncing off the walls? In all honesty, I mean, there was banging and crashing going on in my house at about 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm thinking...
Paranormal?
Well, I'm laying there in bed, sweating my head off, as you do in this weather.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, what is that noise? You know what? Number 2 son, youngest, decided in his wisdom to carry a chair down the stairs. Why?
Okay.
Why he thought that was a good idea at 4 o'clock in the goddamn morning, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Clearly not paranormal. However, if you're sort of like if you're a deep sleeper and you're half in a sleep and you're half not, and all you can sort of remember is bangings and crashings, and you're not sort of really as aware as I was, you know what I mean? I don't know. I just think people jump to conclusions that they shouldn't jump to a lot more than they necessarily should.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that's the sort of comment that Gary's making in the chat room as well. He said that people in their own homes don't understand the expanding and contracting of their own homes. So the heat... so in this heat, these things are happening more.
Oh,
I
God,
agree
yeah.
with that.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. My conservatory, I'm lucky enough to have a conservatory on the back of the house. The cracks and the bangs that are happening out there at the moment, that is not paranormal. That is pure, like Gary says, the expanding and contracting of the heat throughout the day. You know what I mean? And then of the evening, when it finally cools down, it then starts. And it's cracking and banging. I kind of expect problems coming into autumn because of this weather, in all honesty.
Yeah.
I'd
expect to come down one morning, it'll all be flat on the floor.
I wouldn't go that far. But even in regards to my roof, I was sitting there the other night and I was hearing movement in my roof and I'm thinking, what's that? And I think I've got birds in my loft. Because they've managed to get through a gap that's occurred because of the expansion and contraction regarding this weather. Yes, I'm going to have to get that looked at. When we get rain, like full-blown rain, I probably will find out. Well, maybe not, because maybe next month will be good because of payments and stuff. Just saying. When we get rainfall, heavy rainfall, that's when those kind of problems start occurring. So in the autumn, when we start getting the more non-clement weather that we're having at the moment, bearing in mind it's been an extended period this particular year, more so than any other year. We've had a long time of heat with very little reprieve. Yeah. It will show those problems up, like maybe guttering problems or loft problems or, roof problems or, things like that, where the expansion and contraction has caused a crack, which could have caused a bang in the night, which makes you think it's a demon entering your bedroom. I don't know. These sort of things you have to consider. And that is the trouble, Yeah. And yes, you're right. We have just had a new boiler system put in, Gary has said. It makes a different noise to the old one, And that could make you jump to a conclusion. I mean, that's the other thing. Who's had their heating on for the last 3 months? Nobody.
Yeah.
Not one person, I would say, has had their heating on. If you have, you're bonkers. Just saying. Right?
Oh, it's broke.
You then get to September, we get a cold night, we put the heating on, and then all of a sudden we get noises.
Yeah.
Things like that, basic things like that, are so integral into the more private investigations, which is why I think you would get more people contacting paranormal teams going, I've got a ghost. Oh my God, I think it's a demon. No, love, it's your heating system. No, it's the roof that's got a bird in the rooftop, or, you've got a leak, or you've got, your guttering's knackered, or, something more prosaic, something more normal. And I think there's the responsibility of paranormal teams to be able to debunk, to be able to go in and go, okay, so you drink how much? Okay, so you're drunk, and then you hear these noises, and then you automatically assume, because you watch Ghost Adventures, or you watch My House is Haunted, or you watch, whatever television program is out there, then you think it's a demon in your roof. Why, for one, would a demon need to have a roof? And secondly,
there's only one person I know that has problems with demons, and that's you.
You get them to do the job for you. Hashtag occultism. No, I think that's the responsibility. That's where responsibility comes in from paranormal teams that are being contacted privately. Not not event teams, because they're booking locations and they're going out and they're selling tickets to do an investigation. I use that term loosely, but you know what I mean, or an experience. They're providing an experience, but if you're called into a private,
there is a lot of teams out there that do both. I mean, they do the events for public, but yet they still do the private investigations.
Nothing wrong with that, except you have to differentiate between what is a public ghost hunt and a private investigation. There are completely different things.
That's why I got Ashley's book, so I can start filling that out.
Totally different things. You know that. I know that. Most people know that, but there are certain people that don't know that and will go in and go, let's CCTV the heck out of your house and get our K2 meters out, and you've got a demon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is totally irresponsible. But we've talked about this before, the differences in investigations. And you can't... The trouble is, the paranormal... I see, I'm right on my bandwagon tonight, Paul. You've kicked me right off with this topic.
I'm going to take that soapbox off you for next week.
Excuse me. Right. We've talked about the differences in investigations before now. And a lot of it is down to terminology. And this is the problem.
Yep.
So you have to be very clear with what you're doing when you go into public, private, whatever case comes to you. You have to approach it very differently. And that is the point.
I tend to be very picky about the investigations that come into me. First thing I always want. I mean, I always try and leave a 2-week gap between when they first contact me and when I can first go around to see them, because I want them to write a log of exactly what's happening. So you get that 2-week period where they're recording everything, and you might be able to pick out certain patterns if possible, but that tends to put a lot of people off.
Yeah.
And for me, that's sort of the starting block for my investigation. And it sort of separates the people that actually want your help, because if they want your help, they will do this log, and it sort of separates the ones that just watch Most Haunted and want
like a private Most Haunted coming into their house. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, you have to do at least a 2-week log. Because you can kind of see the activity that's allegedly happening and what type of activity, and secondly, what time. If it happens at 10 o'clock in the morning, there is no point you going in at 10 o'clock at night.
No, exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's the thing. It's just picking out the best times
patterns. But again, we're back to patterns of behaviour. Patterns of thing. If they're getting it at they've watched Most Haunted and all of a sudden they're getting paranormal activity. Hashtag paranoia.
Yeah.
Or whatever program it could be. It's. I think you have to be very discerning and you have to be very aware of the whole paranormal field, not just the TV perception, not just. You really, really, really have to know if you're going to take on a private paranormal investigation. This is not going to a generic location that anybody can book. This is into someone's home. You have to be incredibly knowledgeable. You have to know exactly what you're dealing with psychologically, because there are so many factors.
With the paranormal, though, doing a paranormal investigation privately, it's not just about the spiritualism and ghosts and stuff that you need to know about. You do need to know a little bit about the medical issues that come with that.
Totally.
That's why this is sort of the way I tend to think of it, because I have got the medical training behind me. I always go with that idea as well. So when I'm sitting interviewing someone for investigation purposes, I have a section on medical issues. I mean, some of the other investigators feel a bit uncomfortable asking questions that are quite personal in that respect, but for me,
they truly believe if they truly believe they have got paranormal activity, they will be happily open to answer all the questions you have, down to doing the 2-week log, down to things, questions that are very personal that you will ask.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was watching an old episode of 999 Watch for Emergency the other night, and they were doing a special on schizophrenia and mental health problems. And there was a guy there. They were obviously called to this guy's house, and he was sitting there, and he was like, "I want to top myself," basically. He started talking to someone, and the paramedic's like, "Who are you talking to?" And he's like, "There's 2 people standing there next to you. There's a man and a woman," and he described them quite accurately. Who's to say that he's not? They're not spiritual. So I'm sort of turning the tables there. Right. If he's literally being haunted, but then equally we know that really he's schizophrenic.
Not necessarily, depending on your belief system.
But it's still something that an investigator needs to be aware of.
I agree.
When they go into an investigation, because they might then think, well, okay, he is mentally disturbed as opposed to haunted. So again, turning the tables back again. It's sort of...
You're like switching around, you are.
Absolutely. But it's just something that, we as investigators should have a duty of care.
We have a duty of care. I totally agree with that. We have a duty of care. However,
officially, we don't, because it's not a recognised industry. So we haven't got that duty of care. But any decent paranormal investigator would take that role on.
No, I agree. No, I do agree.
This person has reached out to you as an investigator to get help, and I think that is part of it as well.
I don't disagree. I think you're right. If you're called into that kind of case, there is a duty of care. However, as a paranormal investigator, you have to remain impartial. And I say this because there are so many belief systems out there. You cannot approach any paranormal activity with a set belief system. You have to be aware, at least aware, of other belief systems. Okay, so the medical belief system would be schizophrenia, it needs to be dealt with, right? By giving him a pill or whatever, right? Another belief system would be he is too open to spirit and he is being haunted by spirit and needs to learn how to open, close, blah, 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 right? Another belief system is a shamanic belief system, which is the mental if I get this right, because I'm not an authority on this, as you understand, is that anybody who has an imbalance within their energy field will attract a spirit that sees an opening, as it were, and will attract that kind of energy that then is too strong on their energy basis, so then can come forward too much. So it's about getting that balance right. Yeah. So it's about balancing those belief systems and directing the right help to the right person in the right place, regardless of your personal belief system.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, because I have had situations that I've come across where I do not believe that person was mentally ill, but directed them to the right person who helped them, and that kind of resolved the issue for them, because I directed them in the right place with the right person. That's key too. Because
absolutely, and that's
it's not
sort
about
of
my personal belief system. That's got nothing to do with my personal belief system. That's listening to them talk and what will resonate with that person the best to get the best result. And that
absolutely, and that's where I was sort of going. We're called upon to help in the first instance. So we need to be knowledgeable enough to say, well, I can't help you, but this person can, and maybe sort of not dump them on someone else, but if they need the whole shaman
or clearance, or spiritual clearance, or whatever it is, but you have to be so careful, and that takes time, and that takes discernment, and that takes you as a person and your personal beliefs and it's called a higher self-thinking scenario, which very few people can do. You take yourself out of the equation, you look at the facts and you look at belief systems of the person, not yourself, and you go, this is the situation. What is the best scenario for this person to resolve this issue? Indeed. Regardless of whether or not your person, how many times have we gone and gone, God, this person's an absolute fruit loop. Jesus.
I've never said that.
No, but there are people that have done. Do you know what I mean? They've gone, okay, we'll do a paranormal investigation and that'll solve the problem and that'll be done. It doesn't. It causes more problems in the long run. Particularly if they've done the 2-week log and you've done the sit down and questionnaire thing, and you sit there and you think, this is so out of my remit. Okay, so this is so out of my remit. What the hell am I going to do here? Okay, so who do I know? So I'm going to talk about this to other people that I trust. Yeah, there's a trust factor with other people. So you go, okay, so I'm going to go and talk to, right, I'm going to throw some names out here. Gary Bradfield. Gary, I've got this case. What the hell am I going to do? This is the scenario. And he goes, oh, okay. How about this? How about looking at it in this way? And you go, okay, haven't thought about that. So that's a possibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's how we should be as a community.
Exactly.
Reaching out to others and asking other people for help if you need it.
Mm-hmm.
We're all at different levels of experience.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing this for coming up to about 12 years, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how long Gary's been doing it, but I'm sure he's been. I've always seen Gary about, so he must have been doing it longer than me.
But Bear, look at Bear. I mean, I'm pulling names out, okay? In the chat room, Bear. She works very shamanically. She works in a very spiritual way. She works in a very different way to most people. I could go and talk to Bear and find a different perspective completely on it. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? I go, okay, I hadn't thought of it in that way. But that's where your community comes in. And I think a lot of people go into cases sometimes and, shut down. They go, oh, it's private.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put it out in public because, client confidentiality. Yes, you have client confidentiality. However, there is nothing wrong in the same way a doctor would pull in a specialist from a different area if they have a situation where they don't know what's going on with their client or their patient. They would pull in. They would phone up their colleague in North London Hospital and go, I've got this case. I don't know what's going on. What can you help me? And they'll go, oh yeah, send me the details. There is nothing wrong with that.
No, of course there isn't. And doing it in private as well. You don't do these things over Facebook.
No, that's one thing's for damn sure. That is, don't even get me started on the socials at the moment. Don't even get me started. Because I'll have soapbox number 2 out.
Well, no, keep it put away. We've only got like 10 minutes. So.
Don't even get me started on the socials.
But I totally agree, and I think that that's where the community comes in to play. I mean, I've used them. I've used other people for help when I felt
at your league or out your knowledge base,
out of my depth. Yeah, absolutely.
Why not?
Exactly.
Isn't
I've used that is it. I like networking.
How are you going to give the person that's asked for you for help the best help if you don't know the answer?
Exactly.
If you know so many somebody that might know the answer, then what is wrong with reaching out to those people? I know for a fact that if I had a case that come into me, which I do on occasion, I've got certain people that I would reach out to. Yeah. If I felt out of my depth, if I wasn't able to resolve it in the normal, 2-week blog, 2-week log, that kind of scenario, I know for a fact I can go, Paul, what do you reckon on this? Kev, Karen, Gary, Bear, those kind of people, and I'm pulling names out of the chat room here, obviously, Terry. What's going on? What's your opinion? And those people may have got a different knowledge base to the knowledge base I've got. So what is wrong with that? I know those people. I know they're not going to go spreading it all over the socials, so it still remains private and confidential. But I have reached out into a bigger community. What is wrong with that? So I think in regards to what can we do right and wrong in the paranormal, which is the title of tonight's show, can we do anything right? We can do a lot right. But we have to know our equipment. We have to know the parameters. We have to know our boundaries. We have to know our own limitations. We have to know what type of investigation we're doing. There's so much we have to define before we can make sure we do it right. Yeah.
Indeed. And on that note, we've come to the end of the show.
We got still 6 minutes, yeah?
Yeah, I know, but you've got to do a rundown of everything that's coming up next week.
Oh, shit. Right, Beck, where's my diary gone? Oh, my God, where's my diary?
Oh, dear.
Okay,
Prepared.
so... No, I know. I've lost my diary.
Well, next week's show is on pareidolia, audio pareidolia.
It is. That's going to be a fun show. Let's put it that way. I'm still looking for the diary, everybody. Keep going.
Gary Bradfield said there's nothing wrong in gaining extra knowledge and help others if you're in doubt on private cases. No, that's pretty much what we said, and we totally agree. So, Gary, we'll message you when we need you.
Oh, Gary, I love Gary. He's awesome.
And everyone else, we'll just send a blanket message to everybody and just say, what do you think of this?
Yeah. Well, tomorrow night... Yay! You found the diary. Tomorrow night is Haunted History Show. I will be putting a poll up tomorrow on the Parasearch Radio Facebook group page to let me know what show you would like to be played out tomorrow evening, because Penny is on holiday still. How dare she? Then Thursday... I know. Absolutely disgusting. I'm going to have to sack her. No, not really. Yeah. Joking. Hashtag joking. On Thursday evening, the Spectral Zone and Paranormal Mums for Charity. Right, now, guys, this is serious. Joanne Treherne has a son who has a disease called lipodystrophy. I can never say it. I'll try to do it on the live, but it's a really rare condition. It only affects 700 people in the UK. It's a very unknown condition, and basically what it does is no matter how much the boy eats, it doesn't translate, his body doesn't translate it into body mass. So he doesn't put on weight, he doesn't, have muscle definition, and he basically looks like an old man at sort of like 10 years of age. It's an awful, awful condition. But because of the way the parameters are set up, the money for the research isn't being ploughed into it. So Jo is trying to do, or she's going to do, should I say, a charity event that raises money, or tries to raise some money to go towards the research for this condition, because it affects her personally. Now, Kaz, as we know, I want to put out there publicly, Kaz is an awesome, amazing, lovely person. If you upset her, she will block you, as I will, as Paul will, as anybody would. If you call somebody crap, you will get blocked. End of. For no reason, you will get blocked. We try to resolve. If we can't resolve, then we walk away. End of. And Kaz is the same, but she is basically one of the loveliest persons we have met in our life. Don't you agree, Paul?
Totally. She'd kill me otherwise. No, she's lovely. She's fine.
She's great. She's an absolutely awesome person. And any time that someone approaches her, trying to do an event, that will raise money for a particular charity, she will put her heart and soul into. And she is bringing Jo onto a show to talk about the event that she's trying to do regarding the paranormal, obviously, and is, backing her 100%. Please listen to the show. You'll find out ways you can donate, even if you can't attend the event, and you'll find out all about the condition and why Jo wants to do the event. It's absolutely amazing. The boy, God, he's Sean. He's 11. He's freaking awesome. He's such a cool kid. It's untrue. Considering his condition, he is just an amazing, amazing child. And we want to do everything we can to help raise money for this. So please listen to the Spectral Zone on Thursday evening for this one. Friday evening, watch out, there may well be a pop-up about, is all I can say on that one. I haven't told them yet. but we'll see how that goes. On Sunday,
I've just decided I'm out Friday night.
On Sunday evening on the Spirit Dimension, myself and Claire Hinks, we look at the law of attraction. Can you really attract what you want in this life? Can you use the law of attraction to get what you want? We look at the various people that speak about this. Some amazing speakers talk about the law of attraction and whether or not you can raise your vibration to get what you want in this life. That's 9 p.m. on Sunday evening. So that's what we've got coming up. We have a new competition coming, so keep an eye on your Parasearch Radio group page on Facebook. And don't forget, if you miss any of our shows, you can click on our YouTube channel. Don't forget, Paul, you can click, like, share and subscribe.
I just love the whole Wild West accent that you put on there. I don't know why you do it.
I have no idea, but I do like symbols and that. If you see me while I'm doing this, honestly, I'm going click, like, share and subscribe while I'm doing that sort of like.
It's like your guns, you know, you find your guns in here.
I.e., you better or I'll shoot you.
Oh dear. Well, all that's left to say is thank you everybody for joining us in the chat room tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. We look forward to seeing you all in the chat room again for our next paranormal concept on audio pareidolia. God, I nearly forgot that then. So it's good night from me and...
It's good night from me.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.